Good morning. It's the start of a new week, so another morning briefing on the Celtic way. A couple of things to discuss today, and we will. Sean Martin and myself, Andy Bargh. Sean, it's your first morning briefing. You've just recently joined the site, so I hope you're ready for this. You've been swatting up, I'm sure. And we'll have a wee chat about, well, what was in the end a bit of the spiriting result against West Ham at the weekend, but much bigger things to come on Wednesday in the second leg of the Champions League qualifier, and a few things that need resolved at Celtic. The right-back situation, potentially Ryan Christie's contract. Ange Postecoglou seems pretty keen to get him tied down. So let's just get the West Ham chat out of the way, Sean. The result is, I'm not going to go as far as say it's a disaster or a hammer blow or anything like that. But just when you look at it on paper, a 6-2 defeat in a pre-season friendly, despite the quality of the opposition, West Ham were really good last season. It's quite deflating, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't nice at all to see Welsh and Murray given a bit of a lesson by Mikel Antonio. But to be honest, I mean, he's literally done that to Premier League defenders multiple times. So for me, it's as much about what they and the coaches take from it going forward as it is the experience of the day, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Is it important to keep it contextual that was Celtic's centre-back pairing? And we've given quite a bit of credit recently to Stephen Welsh. Murray's just in the first team door recently, but we've given quite a lot of credit to Stephen Welsh. I think he looks pretty good, but they won't be Celtic's first choice pairing this season. When Julian's fit and when Starfelt's available, they'll both play.
Exactly. I mean, there is only so much you can read into it. Obviously, with the spectre of the Midtjylland second leg looming over the game on Saturday, it does actually impact the starting 11 for the next game, but you're totally correct. Going forward, that won't be the starting pair. So,
yeah. Now, Edouard seems to be drawing a wee bit of criticism at the minute, and I think that there's chat from Stephen McGowan from the Mail that I think that Brighton will come in after the Midtjylland qualifier. I don't know if that's been agreed between the clubs that okay, let us get this important game out of the way, then you can make your move. Is the time right for Edouard to move on?
If the price is right, the time's right. Quite frankly, that's always been the case with Edouard, I think, since we paid the money that we did for him. I think that it really is as simple as that. If the price is right, then it is the time.
Okay. Well, what else did Celtic learn from the weekend? I think we know that the centre half, despite Welsh looking pretty decent on occasion, they've got a lot to learn when it comes to playing superior opposition, because let's not make any mistake, there's a massive difference in playing Mikel Antonio and the West Ham attackers compared to a lot of teams or most of the teams in the Scottish Premiership. So I think maybe a bit of a rude awakening for them at the weekend there. But what else stuck out for you?
Oh, I mean, definitely the directness of Abada out on the right. That is, it looks as if he's going to be a really shrewd signing. It looks as if he will be, whether he starts when James Forrest is fit or whether he comes off the bench, he just looks as if he's going to be a real live wire this season and a good addition to the squad. I think we're going to come on to it, but I mean, Ryan Christie again was impressive and he looks ideal for like Ange ball. If he does want to stay, then I think we're going to talk about it, but if he does want to stay, we should keep him for me. Aside from that, the link-up play in the final third was really good to watch at times, and Callum McGregor took his goal well. Overall, going forward, plenty to be positive about, but the concern obviously was defensively.
Yeah, well, one area of the defence that's been getting a lot of light shone on it is the right back area. Anthony Ralston is the sole one really at the club at the moment. I know Urhoghide can play there, but I don't think that's naturally his home position. Now the Celtic have, apart from Frimpong recently, let me think. So Tolyan came in and didn't really do much. Moritz Bauer wasn't a very successful loan signing either. It's an area that Celtic would, I think, fair to say, been crying out for someone to come in and make the position their own since Lustig's contract finished. And I don't know if a loan signing with Jan Couto from Man City, which seemingly now looks a bit unlikely. The two lads from Rennes, Sacha Boey was the one that was most heavily linked. It seems he's going to Galatasaray, and Brandon Soppe, I think I think the names were just maybe a bit muddled up in that one. There's a couple more, if you just give me a second. There's Moritz Jentz, who's a 22-year-old German playing in Switzerland at the moment. And then Aurelio Buta, who plays for Royal Antwerp, who's valued a wee bit higher at around 3 million. So these are names that are popping up every couple of days just before the weekend and over the weekend. Are there any that stick out to you that would be a good signing? We're not going to try and pretend we know loads about these guys. We've only heard from them for the first time in the last couple of days. But the one of Jan Kuto seemed to be quite exciting.
I mean, I think the first thing I would say is that position has to be a permanent solution for me if possible. But just taking Jan Kuto in isolation, it could be a decent signing. I mean, he's got a good youth pedigree. I believe he won under-17 World Cup. And he spent last season on loan at Girona in the Spanish second division. I mean, it could work. You're right that the loan signings in particular for that position that we've brought in recent seasons haven't really been great. But it could work, and it's definitely a position we need to strengthen urgently. But as I say, I'd rather it was a permanent solution if possible.
Well, is that because you want someone that can build on an impressive first season with the club if they come in and do that, rather than just a short-term fix?
I think that's got to be the aim for every position. If you're looking to strengthen, ideally it will be a permanent solution that we can then either keep for a good few years like Lustig or sell for a profit like Frimpong. It's got to be one or the other for me. I mean, a loan signing is literally just a short-term fix regardless, unless we've got a loan-to-buy option. And I don't think that's going to be the case with Jan Kuto, given it's Man City. So it really depends for me. But yeah, a permanent solution would be the ideal.
Well, I think Kuto does seem a bit unlikely at the moment, because there were reports in the Manchester Evening News in the last couple of days that Man City want him in the first team squad this season. Mm-hmm. So I think that maybe they're trying to use this time to integrate him and get him involved. I suppose they do have absolutely class players in that position with Kyle Walker, and Cancelo can play over there as well. So he's hardly first in the pecking order, but maybe they do see him as a long-term player for the club. The other two, Maurice Jens and Aurelio Buta, these are guys that are total strangers really to pretty much everyone that's based in Scottish football. So we'll see if Celtic do pursue either of them. It would be apparent though that they are long-term admirers of Maurice Jens. When he was at Fulham, he was a youngster at Fulham before taking the punt on first team football over at Lausanne in Switzerland. So this is not someone they've just stumbled upon in the last couple of months. So Maurice Jens is someone they've been tracking, I suppose, for some time, and maybe he was unattainable when he was at Fulham, but now could be the right time. The rumour seemed to be that £1 million could be enough to get him, which falls in line, Sean, with the buy cheap, sell on for more system that Celtic use.
Definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, interesting to see what happens at the right back situation. The left back situation, I don't think it's not as desperate, Sean. It's fair to say. I mean, there are two left backs there. The jury's out for a lot of the Celtic fans on whether one or both of them are first team quality at Celtic or first pick quality at Celtic. But there are two there. Do you think a third one is needed?
Probably not, as long as the other two are still there. I mean, I agree with you that there's definitely doubts from what I can see over both. I quite like Greg Taylor. I think he was kind of unfairly maligned last year. The one concern I do have this season is he's obviously expected to come infield and maybe be on the ball a bit more. So in terms of that, I'm not sure how he'll cope. But I mean, one name I've seen mentioned is Lee Buchanan from Derby. From what I see, he is a left back who can cover left mid, but there's a difference doing that for Celtic as opposed to Derby. So I don't really know how good he is on the ball, which I suppose would be the upgradable portion of the kind of position, the way that Ange wants to play it just now. It does throw up a question if we were to go for a left back. As you say, there are already two there, so you would imagine out of the two, given Ange seems to prefer Taylor just now, does that mean that Bolingoli would maybe be leaving if that was the case? I don't know. In terms of the... Sorry?
I was going to say, surely it would make sense if Taylor is the first pick. You sell Bolingoli, he's try and make some money back on him, otherwise it's just 3 million completely thrown down the toilet.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. And I mean, as I say, if we are going to be going for another left back, I don't see the need for 3. If we're going to spend money, again, if it's not a loan signing, if it's going to be a permanent move, for instance, if it was Lee Buchanan, for instance, the signs down south is at Nottingham Forest want him as well, and they're prepared to pay a couple of million. So is that not money that we could maybe see better spent on the opposite flank to secure a permanent solution there rather than a third left back?
Yeah, that's a fair point. And I think for someone with only 12 months left in his contract down at Derby. He is young as well. Buchanan, only 20 years old, and I think he just had his breakthrough year last year. And so a couple of million, if that's what Derby are asking for someone with 12 months left, that's quite a significant ask, I would imagine, especially for clubs that are shopping in the playground that Celtic and various championship clubs are. It's not exactly an environment where Celtic can go throwing around, well, I suppose they have done in the past, millions on players that end up not to be what initially thought they was expected of them. But yeah, Buchanan for 12 months left in his deal, a couple of million. I do think that you're right, there are areas of the team that require more urgent attention rather than a left back. And I suppose, though, as we've just said, if Taylor is the first pick, then selling Bolingoli or trying to shift him on, and not on a loan like to Istanbul last year, just after the COVID situation, but to actually get him moved on and try and recoup some of the outlay that Celtic spent on him would be the wise thing to do, wouldn't it?
I think so. I think it's yeah. I just don't see the rationale between having 3 left backs when the right back situation really needs sorted so urgently, basically.
Well, what about Ryan Christie's situation? Because he could sign on a pre-contract for another club any minute, really. It's January. I'm sure his deal's up. It's a mid-season deal. Now there have been various points in last summer. I think that there have been a lot of unfair things said about Ryan Christie. Probably about his attitude. I've always been impressed with Ryan Christie's attitude. I never got the toys out the pram stuff. He's shooting from 30 yards. He doesn't care. All that sort of stuff. I found that a bit strange. Now he has come back into the team knowing that he could sign for another club whenever he wants, really, on a pre-contract deal. Anyway, was really good against Midtjylland. He said he was good against West Ham as well at the weekend, and Ange seems to be a big admirer of Christie. Now, just forget about for the moment with Ange Ball if he plays on the left side of an attacking 3 or in centre mid. Should Ryan Christie be persuaded to stay at Celtic, or, as we discussed Watson Edouard earlier, is the time right just to let him move on?
I think the difference between the Edouard and Christie situation is that, as you say, we're not going to get any money really for Christie of any great value. He either signs a pre-contract or he goes for probably a fraction of what he would have gone for. The key is if he wants to stay, if he is still open to staying, then yeah, I don't see why we wouldn't try and persuade him. I can't imagine that his demands would be that outrageous. Obviously, I don't know that, but I can't imagine it's going to be like massively outrageous. And if, as has been suggested before, if he does fancy a move away from Scotland at some point, why does it need to be this window? Why does it need to be this season? If he does want to stay, and again, if he wants to stay and Celtic can sort a contract out, would Christie starring, which I think he will, under Ange, for even just the rest of this season, would that not only work out better for both parties further down the line in terms of potentially a better move for him and more money for us?
Maybe. Christie's he's not young though anymore. Remember, Christie, by the time next summer rolls around, Christie will be 27, and that is, I think, when you're wanting to be at the absolute peak of your career. And I think that he's very good pals with Stuart Armstrong, and I'd imagine that Armstrong, who made the move 3 years ago now, and is a couple of years older than Christie, will at Scotland camps, and I'm sure they'll speak on the WhatsApp and stuff. It'll be footballers talk. They'll be in his ear saying, you need to get down here. This is what you can get down in the English Premier League, or even if it's one of the League One teams that were mentioned, Nice or Monaco. Can you imagine living in Monaco? These are the things that Christie has to weigh up if they're realistic offers. And I do wonder if, I think that Christie's attitude is really great, and I think that in the back of his mind he will think, well, okay, I do want to contribute to this Celtic team, but if it's not now, and for example, if he does his ACL in the autumn, that could completely scupper any hopes he's got to go and test himself in a stronger league. So you have to take your chances while they're there, in my opinion, and strike while the iron's hot. And although it's not as hot for Christie as it maybe was last summer, he's clearly made enough of an impression over the last 18 months to 2 years for clubs to remain interested, despite him not having his greatest season last year.
That's true. And going back to what you said before, I totally agree with you. I don't think it was his attitude that was the problem. I think, all right, people said that he took too many shots, and it seemed that way. I think it was actually that the shots weren't going in as often, just as much as it was that he was taking shots. He always liked to dig from distance. I suppose you would need to ask if he was told last season to shoot on sight, because so far in the handful of games this season, he's not really been wasting shots. He's been more involved. He's been The link-up play has been brilliant, and again, basically it comes down to if he wants to stay with Celtic, then I think we should keep him.
Jordan's in the comments asking if Christie, if he goes, if it means Abada and Forrest, but Abada is a right winger just as much as Forrest is, as far as I'm aware. I wonder if Furuhashi would be the one that plays on the left-hand side. And if Christie does stay, Sean, would you prefer to see him as one of the as one of the two wide guys, or do you like him centrally with McGregor and Turnbull or Sorrell?
I think it's horses for courses, to be honest. Depends on the day, depends on the opponent, depends on the way that Ange wants to play on any given day. He can fill in both. And as I said with Abada earlier on, I don't know how effective he is on the left. I don't see why he would be significantly less effective on the left, because he's very direct. It just seems like that's his game. Whether he's going inside or outside, he seems he would do that. Forrest can operate on the left. I prefer him on the right, but it's good to have those options. So Christie, if he does stay, would just add to that. It would just be another string to our bow. Okay,
well, let's have a quick look ahead to the Midtjylland game. We'll do it more tomorrow, considering it'll be closer to the game at that point. But just at the start of the week, how are you feeling for it? And if Celtic lose against Midtjylland or get knocked out after a draw, is it important that it's not seen as a catastrophe, or do you think that it is?
It depends on the display, really. I mean, if we get absolutely wiped the floor with after looking by far the better team, I thought last week, then not a catastrophe, but you would be asking serious questions like how much the West Ham game affected people in that case. But I'm actually quite optimistic about it. I think it's a totally different opponent from the West Ham game. We've already shown that we can be the better team. If we take our chances, we'll beat them. I know it's in Denmark rather than in Glasgow, but I think there's plenty to be positive about for it.
Are you starting Edouard ahead of Ajeti or Griffiths?
I think he will, yeah. I think he'll pretty much go with the same lineup that he did for the West Ham game. I think that's why he played it. I don't think, for instance, it benefits Dane Murray to not play him in this match now, just because he had a poor game against a good striker in a friendly. Mm-hmm. So I think he'll probably go with the same lineup for me.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens, and hopefully Celtic can get their hat into the next round, where it looks like it'll be PSV. I think they thumped Galatasaray in the first leg, didn't they? So yeah, probably PSV lying in wait for whoever progresses, Celtic or Midtjylland, and we'll find out on Wednesday evening. So Sean, thanks for joining us for your first time on the morning briefing.
Thanks for having me.
All right, no problem.
Cheers.